Hey Siri, stop. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Friday Die Date. How are you all doing? You don't have to answer me. I know you're doing amazing because you are amazing. So, what a flustery morning I had. I accidentally brought the wrong camera with me, so now this one doesn't follow me. So I'm going to be really careful that you can see me at all times. Today, we're going to be playing with the winter barns. Sorry, my voice is so gravelly. So first, I want to talk a little bit about how this whole Friday Die Date show works. It's live. You can invite anyone by just forwarding them this invitation. And it's sponsored by WandaWorks, which is my studio, by Magic Carpet Dyes, my dye company, and the Welcome Out, where I uphold this show. I have all the recordings there, and I have all the bonus information that I give about this show. Today, we're going to be talking about dyeing reds and specifically working with my winter barns. And I have a couple of sponsors this week too. Deb Wire, she's wonderful and gives me a little sponsorship every month, and I'm so appreciative of it. And also Julie Cheeseman this week. So I found a good quote today. It said, "I long so much to make beautiful things, but beautiful things require effort and disappointment and perseverance." Van Gogh said that. So I just wanted to show you all the reds I went through to try to get this great grouping. And it was a lot of reds until I found ones that were the most useful. Here they go. All right. So first, I want to talk to you about when you get new dyes and how to organize them. And I need to do this too. I'm not super familiar with these yet, and I can't right off the top of my head know their qualities, how warm they are, how cool they are, how light and dark. But what I did was put a little piece of the sample wool right on top of it. And that was really helpful to me to be able to just look at the top of my jar and know what's in it. Of course, if you are desirous of having these dyes, you're going to get this great little card with them, and it says inside about all the different things about them, how to use them, what they're like, and then on the back you're going to have the samples. So that's going to be really useful for you, but I would take a little bit of that sample and put it right on top of my jar. Now, as with any dyes, I always have a sample that I dye, and I always use the same reasonable idea to do it. So I always use equal amounts of dye to the wool. So this is 1/8 yard, so I used 1/8 teaspoon. This is Kelly here in my hand, but I wanted to let you know that these are just the samples. And when you dye them darker, here's Garvey dyed darkly. Look at the difference. Here is, I think this is Ross. Yep. Here's Ross. Look how much redder it becomes when it becomes darker. So I think I used a 1/4 teaspoon over 1/8 of a yard. Sorry, that's your 1/16. Yeah, over 1/16. And look at the beautiful red quality I got. So what you see here isn't necessarily everything this dye is, because I can also make these weird pinks, and they're much nicer than my normal red pinks. And later we're going to look at these about flesh tones, but here is Ross again. What a difference. Hey, let's grab Ross. Come on over here, Ross. So you can see there's such a variety in this one dye jar. And when we get to understand that, then we get to do some really fun things. I also wanted to show you what happens when they're used at their darkest. You get a beautiful, warm, dark brown. I don't remember which one this was because it was in one of the flurries of making all these samples. So you can just see how you can find those gorgeous reds that you desire. So although I'm calling them the barns, some of the samples don't look too reddish, but once they're dyed more deeply, their redder qualities come out. Whew. All right, I'm saying because it's getting warm in here. I'm going to get dyeing. So the first, I mostly want to work with two colors today. Kelly. I'll show you what Kelly looks like if I can. I just like throwing things around and messing things up. So this is what Kelly looks like in the sample color. It's beautiful. It has a nice soft quality to it. And it almost looks pinkish if put against certain things. Don't let that worry you. So now we're going to take 1/4 yard. Also, when I'm working with new dyes, I always make sure, like with my regular lineup, I can pretty much tell what's happened. But I always make sure that I use some Tyvek. Everybody knows what that is, I hope. If not, you can ask me later about where to get it. And you can put a label on this. So this is going to be number 1. So I'm going to put 1 teaspoon of Kelly in this dye bath here. And as I always do in these shows, I'm going to dye over 1/4 yard. I normally remove these strings, as you know. The selvage edge has this little nylon string in it, and I'm just going to leave it. And so I'm going to get this in here. The water's just heating up, and there's no acid present. So I don't have to get too crazy about my stirring just yet. And I'm going to start our number 2 version of this color. And this time, I'm only going to use, what did I say? 1/16 over 1/4 yard. You can see what it looks like. If I knew where I put it. Here we go. I think the thing we always need to remember, no matter which dyes we're using, is that the sample is just one root of what's possible. This red has a nice quality of being an easy dissolver, which is always happy for me. Of course, these are limited. I'm only going to have them for a short while, as supplies last. I was really happy. Yesterday, I had good response to them going on sale, and I really appreciate that for everyone who got a set. Lots of people got 2 sets. When people get 2 sets, or they're the first 10, they're going to get a bonus dye, and that bonus dye is called the Murky Bastard. Let me see, I did bring out the Murky Bastard here. Well, I must have done, oh, here it is here. You can see it is very murky, but it's quite an interesting color to add to other colors I found. And also, it can calm things down for you if you find things are a little bit too excitable. So its companion set, the companion scent to Winter Barns is called Roses in the Snow, and those colors are much brighter. So the Murky Bastard might help you with those if you don't care for bright colors, but the roses have very nice qualities, and I'm going to work with those next week just to help you understand what they're on about. So I just want to show you this. This is the same color. What a beautiful difference. They haven't, of course, all taken up yet, but it's exciting to see what's possible at these different levels of value. As usual, I'm going to try to hurry this along. I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of citric acid, and then be prepared to stir. So I'm going to only add it to this first one because I have to really stir it quite a bit. Turn up the heat. As always with dark colors, I might need to add up to a teaspoon because this is a lot of dye in here. And I always try to keep those things equal, the amount of acid sort of and the amount of dye. If I have a lot of dye, I add a lot of acid. I don't necessarily use the same measure, but I try to make sure that more acid's going in if I have more dye in the pot. So we only have one more dye date left this year, and I really appreciate you all coming. It's wonderful to be able to show you all my little ticks, not my ticks. I never want to show my ticks. All my little tricks and hints and these fun explorations we've been having with dyeing, and I hope it really has made you feel more adventuresome and confident when you're dyeing. I've had to overcome a lot of hurdles this week. I was having great difficulties with my website. I wasn't getting notifications of sales made. And that was a huge exercise in frustration. But I just kept plugging away because I know how important it is that we can make beautiful reds. They're hard to make. And I think normally what happens to us is we just don't use enough dye. And we'll really see that proven out when we play with our winter barns. And we can play in our winter barns too. Nothing more fun when they're all full of hay. So that addition of acid has cleared this bath right up. So here's Kelly in a lighter version than this one. You can just see how lovely and coralish it is. Like, that's a beautiful color. All right, so that's going to allow me to move on and make another one. So this time we played with their values a little bit. I want to have equal amounts of Kelly and blue violet. But you know what? I wrote it down, but I didn't get blue violet out. Now I have to go under the camera. I'm telling you, today is a day. It's a day where fun happens. You just have to remember what Van Gogh said. You want to make something beautiful, little girl? You got to put up with the troubles. That's not a direct quote. So for those of you who have dye spoons that are smidgen and dash and don't have the measures on, 1/32 is a smidgen. So there we go with our blue violet. Now we're going to add this Kelly. I don't know what this looks like. I haven't done this before. Okay, let's get our number 3 put on the sample so that we know what it is when we're done. I recommend that when you get your dyes, you'll already have a sample of it at 1/8 to 1/8 yard. It doesn't matter, an equal sample. And If I were you, I would play around with making a darker one and a lighter one, just to see and get the measure of its value qualities, like what changes are made as it becomes darker and lighter, because even though they're the same color, they kind of seem to act a different way. I know that these reds, just by looking about what's happening in this pot, I'm going to hold it up so you can see it. Look at the quality of this beautiful violet that I just made. I'm telling you, sometimes I just make myself so happy with the color. Oh, it's beautiful. And I'm stirring it a lot due to the fact that it had a lot of acid in it, and it's almost all taken up now. But imagine if I was making a floral rug. Yeah, that's hot. You know, like, look at how beautiful they'd look in a partnership. Say these were my roses and I made tulips like this. If that were my subject. Even a geometric, those are beautiful colors together. So I know now that I'm gonna have to add a little bit more acid to this Lisa Douglas hot cake situation. I have to tell you too, when I got up this morning, I pretty much, speaking of stars of my youth, I pretty much looked like David Cassidy before I put my glasses on because of the way my hair was. Oh, I'm telling you. If you know who David Cassidy is, you must be my age. He's like a tiger beat heartthrob. Oof. You're still my heart. Now I look like him. Oh, how times change. So some patience is required whenever we make dark colors because we want to allow the dye to go up into it. I'm just going to put the lid on because that's very helpful. And I turned the heat down so it wouldn't overflow if you're a person that's new to the Presto pot. So let's talk about our next color. This time I'm going to use a small amount of Kelly and double the amount of moss green. Again, I'm not entirely sure what's going to transpire, but I'm okay with that if you are. I have my guesses, but I'm not 100% sure. In a few minutes, I'm going to play with Bugsby too. I'm not just going to keep it to playing with this one. So there we go. So now 1/32 of Kelly. Excuse me. And 1/16 of moss green. Which is a pinch. I mean, for me, the creation of these dyes is just a wonderful opportunity for us to play and to make some new colors, yet undiscovered. Changes the behavior of all of the dyes that are in the Magic Carpet set, or any other ones that you have too. I would look at red formulas that you had and just try substituting with the one of the reds that you enjoy from your set. So this has made quite one of these colors that I love to say is just a nothing, but my goodness, how we need the nothings. One of the things I personally want to do is work towards being able to make a gray from these. So when I do that, I'll share the recipe with you. But this again is a very nice quality of a color with the other ones. And you can do this throughout the dyes, play around in this way. I'm going to do next, well, when I start working with Bugsby, I'm going to do moss green and Bugsby with the same ratio, so we can see how that behaves. Okay, so the last one we're going to work with Kelly is I'm going to try turquoise now and see what it does with Kelly, just so we can compare a yellow green with it and a blue green with it. See how what comes out of the pot. I don't know if you explore your reds much or you just need a red and you use red dye. That's probably what a lot of us do, but this whole show is about exploring things and finding out what else is possible. So there's that one. I find it damn handsome. Let me show you. Look at that. So imagine now I'm making my floral rug and I need something for a vine or twine or something to bring the earth into this floral arrangement, which I always like to do. When I'm making something floral, I always want to bring a quality of dirt or rock to it. And so I always like it when there's a twig or, you know, the flowers growing out of something like you would see in crewel work. And that color there would be very helpful for things like that. Okay, so I got ahead of myself. I'm gonna put the turquoise in first because I have the 1/16 spoon out here. This is my old turquoise, which soon we won't have much of anymore. Also, that reminds me, I want to talk to you about my refills. If you need some refills, because of the way shipping is now, it's really good if you can put your order in for those things too. So look through your dyes. I'm not going to ship your winter colors, your winter barns and your roses until sometime next week. My post office has said, you can't bring them all at once. My boys, the boys. Anyways, if there were some refills you needed, it's not a problem to put those in the box and you won't be paying any extra shipping. So I'll just refund that if you want to, or if you haven't ordered them yet, be present of mind what stock you might need. It's really good to bundle things up because the high cost of shipping right now, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I'm embarrassed when I have to charge so much, but then when I'm getting anything, I'm really paying through the nose. So I apologize for the same thing happening to you. So we're going to be happy when we see this color. We'll just hold it up. Look at that. Looks like a stormy water or a twilight sky. It's gorgeous. And who'd have thunk it? See what playfulness does and how it allows us to have these wonderful adventures. I'm really stirring this a lot because of the amount of acid that's still present in here. I'm going to make this show available for everyone on YouTube because I'm going to put links for it on my website so that people can be able to see us working with these wonderful colors and see the possibilities in them. I'm well pleased with how that turned out. Just like you, I'm like, ooh, look at that. All right. I should have brought, excuse me, I should have brought a nylon today, but I didn't. Let me see if I can just nab one because there's just a little bit of residue in that pot I'd like to clear out. Oh my goodness. I found I don't even know what this is, what it was meant to be, but I'm going to swish it around a bit in this pot to try to gather up that little bit of unadhered dye. I could have added more acid, and I also, of course, could have added synthropol to help take it up, and also use some patience. That's always what I recommend for people. We can't do that. We're having a live show here, babies, and we got to get this going on. But you saw how delightfully yellow that was. And now if I ever saw a rose color, this is it. Isn't that great? So I'm saying the pinks that come from these colors and cleaning up the dye. And you can just do this with wool too. I just don't happen to have any handy that's not spoken for. All right. Flop this over in the pan. Make room to plop this over in my pan. So look at the quality of this beautiful thing. I don't know if you can see it because of my dark clothes, but look at how gorgeous it is. Dark like that. And here's the lighter version of it above it. Doesn't take much to please me, but that is delicious. That is not a color I have on my shelves, and I'm well pleased to have it. All right, so now we are going to start working with another dye, Bugsby. So here's Kelly, and here's Bugsby. Bugsby's a lot more orange. Come on, Bugsby, come out and play. So here it is here in its big piece. I'll just compare it to Kelly. You see? Because of the same value, it's often difficult to tell the little differences, but there are big differences. And you'll notice them when you're dyeing light or you're dyeing darker. So let's play the game with moss green. 1/32 of Bugsby. I try to, of course I have a dye company. Of course I'm going to be generous with my dyes, but I do try to be kind of generous with my dyes when I'm measuring. I don't have heaps, but I'm not stiff down either. Okay, now moss green, 1/16. Moss green takes a few minutes to dissolve. Well, that's happening. I'm going to go over here, see what time it is first. Oh, we're doing so well. I can't believe we got all these things done in a half an hour. That's wonderful. I thought we might be here for 6 or 7 years. Oh, boy, this is a nice color. It's not quite gray, but it's getting close to it. Well, there it is. Isn't that gorgeous? This is what I like about these reds. They're not what I would call a dark red in their natural form, which allows them to be mixed in a beautiful way, and they don't overwhelm the other color. And how delightful. I hope you're as delighted as I am. Even if you were 1/8 delighted as me, you'd be so delighted. So here we go with our last one. This time we're going to have equal amounts of Bugsby and yellow. Let's see what that brings us. All right, now I have to turn back here because I wanted to make sure that I put my labels on so I remember what is what. What would be really great is if I remembered what I put in what pot. Oh boy. So if that ever happens to you, all you have to do is look. So I'm looking here and I see that this is a faded out kind of greenish color. So I know that this is the turquoise one, which means I have to put the number 6 one in here. I'm really happy I did this because it's really going to enlighten for you the qualities. I'm making the same recipe, but just with a different red from the barn collection. And it's really cool what color this one turned. Again, I'm overly stirring because, you know, my water already has acid present in it. Really stirring, I'm starting to shake my pot down. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but if you missed it, this table I'm working on is like this. It was an old table from, I don't know what somebody had it for, but there was big chainsaw cuts on the top of it and all kinds of stuff. But I kind of enjoyed its style and shape. It has really nice turned legs. And it was a really interesting soft blue color, like really dingy kind of, I don't even know. But it suited me and I got it, but it doesn't make for, I didn't intend for it to be my dye platform, but here we are. Here we are. This would be a great time if anybody had any questions that they wanted to ask me about this. And you'll be glad to know with my bionic glasses now, I can see everything and I can see we have 24 people here today. And I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you for coming. I so appreciate it. Anyone want to ask anything? Wow, I must have covered all the bases.
This is Joanne. I got there a little late, but I
Yes.
love what's happening.
Isn't it good?
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
it's so wonderful. I agree. I'm very happy and delighted. So what I'm trying to do, Joanne, is just sort of show, I dyed a lot of with, I think 5 times with Kelly, one of the barn reds. And now I've switched over to dyeing with Bugsby. Just to show people, we just don't have to dye red with them. There's a whole myriad of colors we can make. So
It's amazing.
by mixing, I know, by mixing them with our other magic carpet dyes. Hooray, hooray. All right, so I'm gonna throw this dark Kelly into the sink. It's very hot because what I want to do is show you the difference between Bugsby and Kelly with moss. So here's Bugsby on this side and Kelly on this side. Isn't that amazing and beautiful? When we were doing our temperature work, playing around like that would have allowed us to really get these little shifts in temperature change, but keep things the same value. That's always exciting. I'm gonna hopefully get these 2 pieces of wool wet here. I'm on my last little amounts of Synthropol here at the studio. I brought a jar last week, or a bottle, and then I took it back home. So remember I showed you these little light guys, and probably for you, unless you had a highlight of a cheek or something, or you just put some weird makeup on people, you wouldn't want a flesh color quite that intense. So let's take a look. So this is, I'm gonna take this off so I remember what color this, the root color this came from. And I'm gonna take this and swish it around in here because I'm just gonna add the smallest amount to these light pinks of a little bit of chocolate brown, just the smallest, like the tip of a toothpick, to quieten them down to be more flesh colored. Let's just say this to be more Caucasian colored. Just to show you if something comes out, you're trying for flesh, and these colors, these dyes really do make beautiful flesh. I was experimenting at home while I was doing the great laboratory of discovery. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do, so we can see the quality of this before the show ends, is I'm going to add another teaspoon of acid because this is quite a bit of dye in here. And then put the lid on it. So it's not just yellow remaining, that's why I put extra acid in it. Turn it down a bit, put my lid on, so important. And now, guess what I didn't bring over here? Chocolate brown. I'm telling you, I'm a study in unpreparedness today. Even though I was very prepared, I'm unprepared. Here we go. And I just want the smallest amount. So the skinniest thing I have here is these scissors. So I'm just going to use the tip of those. So scientific. I'm going to carry a little bit of brown in there. I'm going to gauge what it looks like. Might need a little bit more. So that was probably 1/4 inch of a damp brown toothpick. Throw these in here, let them get tempered down a little. I might want to add more. We'll see. It's hard to tell when they're in the pot, and this is why it's good to always reserve something so that you can make your real judgments, like, oh yeah, I need to add more, or that is looking much better. Because we can talk ourselves right into something being brown when we're doing this, because we don't have a sample to begin with. And you can do that by reserving it with a clothespin. You've seen me do that many times. Just let this take up. So now let's look at this one. It's a much better flesh tone. You can see its differences here. But the darker one, you know, it could use a little more. So I'm going to add a little more. Well, the dark one's in there. You can take it out if you like. I like to live dangerously. It's usually not a great idea to add dye. Well, what was in the pot, because it has a tendency to just want to get right to it as quick as possible. At times like this, you'd want to be multi-armed, like an octopus. I think this is going to do it. So I'll let this just float around in here a little bit. And everybody recognizes that I had to add more to the darker one to engender enough change, right? It still has a little bit of color left in it. Not much, but I'm going to let it take up. But here's its quality. So this is Bugsby in yellow. And have you ever seen a better dull orange? Damn. It's terrible when you love what you make like this. It's like I should have some shame, but I'm completely shameless. So any other questions, anyone? Have I left you shocked and stunned? I hope so. Okay.
This
we
is
go.
this is
Yeah.
Sue, but no question, but these colors are fabulous.
Aren't they wonderful? Sue,
Yeah.
did you order your colors yet?
I did.
Okay, great. Take a look at how the change for this made it into a wonderful flesh. So just a little tiny bit of chocolate brown made this fleshable. Isn't that great? I'm telling you, I was more nervous today than I think I've ever been in my life since I stopped performing. Like I used to play music and perform it. And the first few times I did that, I literally thought I was going to die. And I felt like that today too, because I don't know these dyes all that well. I don't know how they're going to act, but I made them with my heart and my mind and my eyes and all the signs I could administer to them, trial and error ad infinitum. And I am thrilled. And I just played with 2 today. Imagine what you can do with all 5. And don't forget the Murky Bastard, which you will be getting as a bonus if you get both. So my friends, there's no more questions. I thank you for your encouragement and your attendance today. And I will see you later today on the welcome mat, where I will be publishing this with all our photographs and everything and the recipes that I use so you can make good comparisons. Have a wonderful day and happy dyeing.
Thank you, Wanda.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Wanda.
Wanda.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Wanda.
Thank you, Wanda.
You're welcome.